What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And today we've got another one fresh out of the shop. Thought we would do our normal thing, take a walk around this thing and go out and drive it and see how it feels. Now guys, what we've got here is a 21 Mojave Gladiator. Now, if you don't know, these actually have some really special suspension included on a Mojave. You've got the big Fox shocks with a remote reservoir that goes all the way down over under the skid plate. And you also have Fox bump stops here in the spring perches. And going around to the back, you can also see the Fox reservoir shocks and the unique silver springs. Now, all of that is special to the Mojave, and it is meant to go fast off-road, pre-runner kind of Baja, able to get the thing off the ground a little bit and be able to land comfortably with those bump stops, which leads us to the next thing. Gladiators have a decent amount of rake, and this specific person wanted to get rid of some of that rake. But that puts you in a weird spot because you don't want to get rid of the shocks, you don't want to get rid of the springs because they are special to the Mojave. So what we've added here is the 1.5" Terraflex level kit. And the good thing about that is it comes with a 1-inch bump stop extension here on the bottom that will accept that Fox bump stop and work perfectly. So you don't have to get rid of all of the cool suspension because you are spending a lot for that cool suspension just to get rid of it. Now, real quick, some of the other stuff here is the 35-inch Vulcan Wild Peak ATs. Took off the factory 33's and threw 35's on this thing. Also threw the Rubicon front metal bumper on the Mojave, which there is a little bit of clearance issues with that big skid plate, but a little bit of trimming, everything works fine. And last but not least, under the hood, we threw the Mopar Performance air intake. Now, I wouldn't call it a cold air intake because you're still taking air from the same location, but the intake tube gets rid of a bunch of resonators, a bunch of restrictions, and the air box lid is nice and smooth on the inside, and it of course comes with a high flow filter. So with all of that, you're going to get a little more intake noise and hopefully a little more air shoved down that motor. Now, real quick before we jump in and drive, I wanted to show you that 35-inch tall tire fitting very, very comfortably under the back of this Gladiator. And I have comfortably fit 37s under the back of these, so this 35 is no issue. So guys, now that we walked around this thing, let's go get it on the road and see how the Mojave suspension feels with the leveling kit and the 35's. Now guys, like I said, the Mojave has some really special suspension on it. Those cool reservoir shocks that we talked about, if you were to look those up in the Mopar parts catalog, they are roughly retailing for about $2,000 a piece, which kind of shows you why you want to figure out a different way if you're wanting to get a little more lift on these things. You don't just want to pull off these $2,000 a piece shocks and throw on some $100 a piece nitrogen charged or fluid charged shocks, because you're going to be doing the Jeep a disservice. And that's kind of one of the things with a Mojave is if you're planning on buying this thing just to throw a big lift on it and throw big tires and go rock crawling, it probably isn't the right Gladiator trim for you. You'd be better off going with a Rubicon so you could again throw that lift on it, because like I said, with the special suspension, the bump stops, the springs, everything is special for the Mojave. So in this case, the customer wanted a little bit more of a level look or ride to the Jeep, and that's what we accomplished with that Terraflex leveling kit in the front. Now, I like that Terraflex leveling kit because it has locating pins, it fits very much like the factory spring isolators, and it also comes with those lower bump stop extensions like we talked about. So if you still were to go fast off-road, get a little bit of air under the tires on this thing, when it lands, it's still going to have the correct bump stop travel because you've added those bump stop extensions to the suspension. Now, as we're talking, I'm accelerating onto the highway here, and this of course is the 3.6 liter with the 8-speed transmission that I know and love, and honestly, it feels completely normal. There's not a big massive power loss with the larger 35-inch tall tires. It just feels like it should. Now, yes, the 3.6 isn't a massive powerhouse. It doesn't just rip down the road, but it moves very comfortably for a Jeep vehicle. And even with that leveling kit installed, again, we're running the factory springs, the factory shocks. It rides like it should. It rides pretty much stock. It doesn't feel bouncy. It doesn't feel harsh. And even with the 35's, I'm not wandering all over the road. I'm not just having to manhandle the steering wheel. It just drives nice and smooth like it should. I personally run those Falcon Wild Peaks on my Grand Cherokee on my street wheels, and again, I really like them. They're nice and quiet, they balance well, they wear well. I'm very happy with those Falcon Wild Peaks, and they were the factory tire on this Mojave Gladiator, but in that 33-inch size versus the 35's that we've now put on here. So with those 35's, we've almost got a OEM plus look to it because it is still the factory brand and type of tire. A few more things that kind of make the Mojave a little bit special is one thing that you're going to be holding on to really often, and that's the steering wheel. You've almost got a SRT style steering wheel with the chunkier upper positions for your hands to grab onto. And throughout the vehicle, inside and out, you've got all of the orange colored accents, which lets you know you're in a Mojave. You've got stitching inside, you've got a bunch of interior trim accented with those colors, and outside you've got the badges, you've got the tow hooks that are all also in that corresponding orange color. And if you didn't notice from the walk around outside, that is one of the things I swapped. The Mopar accessory metal Rubicon bumper comes with the red Rubicon front tow hooks. I took the bumper apart and swapped in the orange Mojave tow hooks out of the factory plastic bumper just to make it look like it was supposed to be there and make it look like a factory option. Well guys, I like showing you the stuff that we build or put together as we bring it out of the shop. Looks cool. I really like some of the stuff that we do, and you don't have to go crazy. We don't have a big massive lift. We don't have big massive tires. We've just got a nice put together, tastefully modified Gladiator that's still going to drive great. You can daily drive it. It's not going to drive like a horrible lifted lumber wagon down the road. You could still go out and put a ton of miles on this thing. So guys, let me know down in the comments, is a Mojave for you, or would you be leaning more towards that Rubicon so you could go big lift, big tires, and go out rock crawl trailing? Not that you couldn't go trailing with a Mojave, but if your plans are big monster lift, big monster tires, the Rubicon is probably what you need to be looking at. So guys, as always, thanks for taking a ride with me and looking at this new Mojave. And thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.